Welcome back to The Life of Lloyd. We're up to episode 7. Meet Shanie Niggitin. Ah, a Wego Caruso dress. Now here is a lady who knows how to turn it on, squawked Shanie as the two ladies air-kissed. Mr. Twenson was waved down the end of the sofa while the two ladies talked dresses. Things were going swimmingly and Mrs. Twenson could not stop smiling. After 5 minutes she called out, "Jenny dear, come out and say hello." Jenny looked at Lloyd and said, "Now, stay put until you're called." Lloyd wagged. He understood. Jenny sashayed into the room and Shanie squealed, "Oh, mother and daughter in Wego Caruso. This is simply divine." Mrs. Twenson blushed red at the compliment, and the ladies sat around and talked fashion over tea and biscuits. Mr. Twenson sat on the end of the sofa and rubbed the side of his head. "Now, where is this surprise you promised me? I'm so excited," said Shanie breathlessly. Mrs. Twenson nodded at Jenny, who called, "Oh, Lloyd, come on out." Lloyd bounded out into the lounge with his tail wagging and a huge smile on his face. "What is this?" asked Shanie. The tone of her voice had changed. "Well, he is a prize poodle and very expensive, I'll have you know," exclaimed Mrs. Twenson. "Is this a joke because my brain does not compute humour?" said Shanie seriously. Mrs. Twenson began to stammer. But, you've always said how oodles are the hottest thing." "Oh, darling, oodles are so last season. It's all about the wire hairs now. Don't you listen to anything I say?" All the colour drained from Mrs. Twenson's face. She waved at Lloyd. "Go away." He curled up in his bed and kept his head down. The mood in the room went ice cold and Mrs. Twenson sipped her tea through pursed lips. The conversation was now tense and awkward. Shanie finished her tea and stood up. "Well, darlings, I am off. Please ensure that everything is on trend next time you invite me. I hate being underwhelmed." The ladies air-kissed and Shanie left. The second the front door was closed, Jenny and Mrs. Twenson stormed off to their rooms and slammed the doors. That had not gone well. Lloyd had an awful feeling that he was about to take the blame. He reflected on the day and his eyes began to well up with tears. He'd tried so hard and none of his plans had worked. He wondered how he was going to become a part of this family. Things seemed rather hopeless and he began to cry his little eyes out. "Shush up, beast!" yelled Mrs. Twenson from her bedroom. Lloyd tried hard to hold it all in. He shuddered and whimpered. Nobody would give him a reassuring cuddle and he couldn't stop his emotions. He kept breaking out into a whimper, followed by tears. Every time Lloyd cried, Mrs. Twenson yelled, "Shush up, beast!" Lloyd would go silent for a while, trying to hold it all in. This went on all evening until the lights went out. It was the worst night of his life. In the middle of the night, Lloyd realised the horrible truth. The Twensons had bought him as a fashion accessory. The next morning at breakfast, there was tension in the air. Mrs. Twenson looked like she'd been dragged backwards through a hedge. An hour of doing her makeup had not improved her appearance. Lloyd was pretty sure that this was the result of a sleepless night. Something he felt was about to be blamed on him. "We need a family meeting about the dog," yelled Mrs. Twenson. "Your father and I have spoken, and this dog thing is not really working out." Jenny barely looked up from her phone. What, dear?" stammered Mr. Twenson. Clearly he had not been consulted. "Yes, so at your father's urging, I have decided to rehome the beast, dog," she declared. "Huh? What is going on, dear?" asked a clueless Mr. Twenson. Sure, Mum, whatever. I've got the socials I need. Time for this girl to move on, said Jenny dismissively. Lloyd could not believe what he was hearing. None of the Twensons had tried to get to know him, and now, after Shanie's comments, he was not good enough? The little poodle was simply heartbroken. He started crying again. Mrs. Twenson yelled, "Shush up, beast!" Lloyd didn't care anymore. He let his emotions go and cried his little poodle heart out. Mrs. Twenson was suddenly very businesslike. She turned to Jenny and gave instructions. "Okay, Jenny, you will be in charge of placing an ad online to sell the beast, dog. I want all our money back and I want him gone quickly." "Doing it right now, Mum. I already have some great shots from my social posts," said Jenny enthusiastically. Jenny was always happy to do a job that involved her phone. Jenny tapped away over her bowl of cereal. As she was slurping the dregs from the bottom of the bowl, she loudly announced, "All done. The ad is up and live." "Oh, clever girl, that was fast," Mrs. Twenson exclaimed as she clapped her hands together. She seemed much chirpier now that she was abandoning Lloyd. "Now, take the dog down to the toilet and let's get on with our day," she beamed. Barry and Beverly were down at the dust bowl. They ran up wagging their tails and could see immediately that something was wrong. "Young Lloyd, what is up? You look so sad," Barry asked. "I had the worst night of my life last night, and now I am to be sent away. They're selling me. I will never see you again," cried Lloyd. "Those terrible people. This is not your fault," barked Beverly. "I don't know where I'm going to wind up. I need help," Lloyd sobbed. "Should we send word via the migrating birds?" asked Barry. "We're only meant to use that in an emergency," cried Lloyd. "This is an emergency," said Beverly seriously. Lloyd had just finished going to the toilet and Jenny was already dragging him away impatiently. "I hope to see you again, Barry and Beverly," Lloyd cried out to the schnauzers. "I will ask the migrating birds to deliver word that you are in trouble," yelled Beverly. "If your new owners live nearby, I will see you at the dog park." "I will see you again," roared Barry. He was outraged at how Lloyd was being treated. Lloyd knew that it was some time before the birds flew south. It would be weeks before the farm got the news. He was on his own. The Twensons all got ready for the day and departed. Lloyd didn't even lift his head off the bed. He was all alone, hungry, and heartbroken. He had no idea what the future held, and whether he would ever find a loving family. He put his head down and slept, dreaming of a better life. He woke to the sound of the Twensons arriving home. Everybody seemed happy. Apparently there was an immediate response to the ad. In fact, a family wanted to see Lloyd today. Mrs. Twenson walked over and dumped Lloyd out of his bed. She threw his bed by the front door and huffed off to the bathroom to do her hair. "Jenny, brush the beast so it will be easier to sell him," screeched Mrs. Twenson. "Dad, brush Lloyd so we get the most money for him," yelled Jenny. The paper bag man sat there unmoved. The Twensons kept yelling at each other, arguing over who was going to brush Lloyd. They all agreed it would be easier to sell him if he was well presented. However, none of the three wanted to do it. Lloyd wasn't surprised, and he stood up and looked at his reflection. His body looked scruffy and skinny. He would have to trade on his cute looks and good personality. But deep down, he was sure he could win over a nice family. They were going to meet the interested family out the front of a nearby cafe. Mr. Twenson fetched the kibble. Lloyd had hoped that they would leave this rubbish behind, and his tummy gave a loud gurgle in agreement. They walked to the lift and they were off. When they approached the cafe, the other family were already there. This family were called the Boogles. "Make them pay for the coffees," Mrs. Twenson whispered. Mr. Twenson did as he was told. He walked up to Mr. Boogle and shook his hand. "Afternoon, I'm Christoph Twenson." "G'day, mate, Arthur Boogle." The two men said hello. Mr. Twenson immediately announced, "We'd like 2 lattes and 1 black coffee, please." Arthur looked quite taken aback by the rudeness. Lloyd saw him glance at Mrs. Boogle, who gave a little nod. Arthur turned back and said, "Sure thing. I'll be back in a minute." Mrs. Boogle and the kids stepped up, smiled, and introduced themselves. "Hi, I'm Mary, and this is Dawn and Jack." Mrs. Twenson performed a pirouette and then swished her jacket back and forth. "I am Tzenka. This is Jenny and the beast. I mean dog. The dog is named Lloyd." She announced it all like the ringmaster at the circus. Jenny was standing there with Lloyd, off with the fairies while staring at her phone. Mrs. Twenson yelled at her to bring Lloyd forward. "Wake up, Jenny. They are here to look at the dog." "Huh? Oh, yeah, here you go," she said as she let Lloyd off the lead. Lloyd stood there. He had no idea what he should do. But Dawn knelt down and held her arms wide open. "Come here, Lloyd," she said with a huge smile on her face. She swept him up into her arms and gave him a squashing hug that forced all the air out of his lungs. Lloyd desperately hoped that he didn't stink too much. Mrs. Twenson strutted back and forth, swishing her jacket. She could smell a sail and started loudly telling Porky Pies. "Yes, yes, he loves a cuddle. Spent many an hour cuddling him, you know." Dawn passed Lloyd over to Jack, and Lloyd was crushed by another hug. He relaxed as Jack started playing with his ears. Mrs. Twenson couldn't help herself. "Such an easy dog to manage, you know. Perfectly behaved. We've trained him well." Lloyd couldn't believe his fluffy ears. Thankfully, the Boogles seemed to be ignoring Mrs. Twenson. Mary took Lloyd next. She hugged him close to her chest and wedged his head under her chin. Lloyd relaxed as she patted him in long, soft strokes. Arthur was back and handing out the coffees. "So, Tzenka, why are you selling Lloyd?" "Well, you know we are very important people who are very busy," she said with great conviction. Arthur continued, Okay, it's just that you say Lloyd is such a great dog and so much fun, yet you're selling him after a few days." Mrs. Twenson's eyes narrowed and her anger took over. It didn't take much for the real Tzenka to bubble to the surface. "Maybe you need your ears cleaned out. I have just told you that we are very important people who are very, very busy." "Ah, okay. That makes sense," said Arthur. Yes, it does," she sniffed. Actually, it made no sense at all, and Arthur knew it. He had been carefully watching the Twensons from inside the cafe. He had a hunch that they were not dog people and had made a poor decision buying Lloyd. Mary handed Lloyd over to Arthur. Lloyd could sense that Arthur was a dog person, and he handled Lloyd easily and then popped him up on his chest. Lloyd's paws hung over Arthur's shoulder, and he happened to be staring straight at Mrs. Twenson. All he could think was, "Please let me ride this shoulder to a new home." "All right, family meeting," declared Arthur, and the Boogles huddled together. "Can we have him, Dad?" asked Dawn. "I really want Lloyd," said Jack. "Thoughts?" said Mary with a raised eyebrow. "My thoughts are that there is nothing wrong with this dog," said Arthur. Lloyd wanted to yell, "There is nothing wrong with me!" Arthur continued, "The problem is with these people. They are not dog people. Lloyd appears to be a good dog and I really can't see anything wrong with him. I think we have a little winner here." Lloyd's heart swelled up and exploded. Finally, someone understood him. "So, are we getting him?" the kids babbled together.